Ladies and gentlemen, you welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, at least 11 students injured in an explosion on the campus of the University of Buea in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. This is coming days after an explosion killed a cab driver in the town of Buea. In the meantime, traditional rulers forced out of their villages by violence are expressing concerns over their deplorable living conditions and, of course, the bad conditions of the inhabitants of some of the villages who were equally forced out of their areas of residence to other places by the close to 5-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. Those were our top stories. We begin this newscast right away on the campus of the University of Buea, where at least 11 students have been injured in an explosion. An explosive device detonated around Amputee 600, and according to information streaming into a newsroom from officials of the university, at least 11 students were affected, were injured in that explosion, and this is coming some few days after another explosion killed a taxi driver in the southwest region of Chieftain Buea. Derek Jato, a correspondent in the southwest region, is on standby giving us details. Derek.
It is Wednesday, the 10th of November 2021. I am standing here at the main entrance into the University of Buea. You could see students in their thousands are coming out. Some of them are yet to come into terms of what happened at Amputee 600, where an improvised explosive was detonated, and we have information confirmed by the Director of Student Affairs that 9 students have been wounded. Some are receiving treatment here in Buea, and others have been taken for X-ray out of Buea. Well, we can't say how it happened, but official sources now confirm that it was an improvised explosive on the University of Buea campus. Students here are panicking. Some are saying that they can't explain that they are still in shock, but we can't get right there to the scene because the security forces have prohibited all the media organs from coming closer. But sources say those who witnessed the situation say part of the wall there has been destroyed. We are still following the development. Once something comes up, you'll be next to know. Derek Jato for Equinoxe Television News, University of Buea Junction, signing out.
And in the first statement by a university official, notably the Vice Chancellor, he indicates that at least 11 students were injured in that explosion earlier today. We'll be coming to the declaration of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Buea shortly. Time for us to take a first reaction from a human rights lawyer, a human rights defender, Barrister Ewule Liongan, speaking to us from Buea. He analyzes this new twist of the Anglophone crisis with more and more explosions coming up, notably explosive devices, leaving persons dead and several others injured. Take a listen to Barrister Ewule Lionga Edward.
Am I coming up?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Babila. The recent explosions in Buea is very frightening. This is the 3rd explosion we are getting within a week. You know, Buea used to be like the safe haven. In war times, in war areas, Buea used to be considered as a green zone where people could come there for security. You see, Buea now is crowded. With the recent explosions that we had one last Monday where a taxi driver died, and now we are getting messages that there was another explosion in the University of Buea, and it's very frightening. And so we are it's a medium to say that all of us have to be very careful because this situation is getting out of hand. But if there was an explosion in the University of Buea, is a violation of international law, because even in times of conflict, there are places which are not supposed to be attacked, like schools, like hospitals, like churches. So we are shocked now that people come and carry out explosions even in places that have to be protected under international law. So we are very frightened. We are very frightened. The people of Boya, myself, we are very frightened because we don't know what can happen next. We used to hear explosions in places like Bamenda and other areas where the crises are heated, but now we are getting it right in front of our doorstep. But it is a call for all of us to be very careful and to tell the government to increase the security, especially in the two regions. Thank you.
3 explosions within a very short space of time in the town of Boya. It started with an explosive device that was reportedly thrown into the vehicle of a taxi driver in the town of Boya, and that explosive device detonated after some few seconds after he moved out of the vehicle, and he narrowly escaped death. And then another one occurred some few days ago, and this time it killed the taxi driver. And from witness accounts, the explosive device was thrown into the vehicle by someone who pretended to be a passenger trying to board a taxi, and when the taxi driver slowed down, the detonation or the explosive device was simply thrown into his vehicle and it exploded and killed him. And earlier today we had this one in the University of Boya Namfi, 600 living, over 11 students injured according to official figures from the Vice Chancellor of the University of Boya. And there are concerns about this new twist of the crisis, with more and more explosive devices not targeting military officials or military officers as it has been the case before now, but this time around targeting civilians. And there has been widespread condemnation from across the board. And as you heard Barrister Eule Lyonga speaking there, officials of the civil society or civil society leaders, human rights defenders, crisis resolution experts have been calling on government to take swift action, to take swift measures in order to put an end to the killings and the destruction going on in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and also to step up security, because areas like the areas that were referred to as blue zones, notably Boya, Limbe and others, are fast becoming more dangerous with these explosions. Now let's come to this extract of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Boya. It's the first statement of the university official after this incident occurred today. Take a listen to Professor Oras Manga.
It's around 3:30 after a conference on peace where we had the Canadian High Commissioner as guest. We had some hooting of vehicles outside the restaurant where we were having lunch. And when we tried to inquire, we were told that some students were being taken to hospital for some emergency treatment, and that those students were injured by an explosive device which was thrown on the roof of Amputee 600, and then upon falling to the floor exploded in mid-air and released some metallic shrapnel which injured about 11 students who were in that vicinity, 1 boy and 10 girls. So here we are. We immediately rushed to the Solidarity Clinic to follow up the medical treatment of these students. Fortunately for us, we don't have any serious injuries.
The Vice Chancellor of the University of Boya speaking there. Will keep you updated on this last explosion in the town of Boya, notably in the University of Boya. And traditional rulers, as I said in the headlines, are complaining, expressing concerns, worries over difficult living conditions in which they find themselves today because of the fact that they were forced out of their villages by violence and insecurity within the context of the close to 5-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. After several months away from their villages and the residential areas. Several traditional rulers in the Meme division today are living in very difficult conditions. Smanjikan Gabriel reports.
Traditional rulers in the conflict-hit northwest and southwest regions have become targets of atrocities committed by both camps since the escalation of the Angfun crisis. A good number of chiefs in both regions have been killed, others kidnapped, and their palaces burnt.
The first thing is that most of the chiefs have become IDPs, taking away all their farms, and the boys are the ones controlling their farms, because most often the chiefs are targeted. Most of them are dying because of lack of money. And the next is about most often when the humanitarian aid is being distributed, it's like they think chiefs have a lot of money. They assist their subject, which is very good, but the chiefs themselves also need assistance.
The chiefs equally urge the government to speed up the decentralization process, which will enable them go back to their palaces.
Presently, Porter Song is in Boya. We will hear the news. He will announce about the reconstruction, and I will think the reconstruction should start as soon as possible, so that, especially in the green zone, so that people start feeling the impact of the reconstruction and start getting what they had lost, which because of the war.
The second assistant of the senior divisional officer, John J. Hermina, challenged chiefs to reorganize their villages and preach peace to their subjects.
Now we come back to the explosion in the University of Boya, and the latest information streaming into our newsroom indicate that some of the students who were injured in that explosion are responding to medical care. And now we go back to the declaration of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Boya, Professor Horace Manga, on what happened today in the University of Boya. Take a listen.
Today we're having a conference on peace building. The conference started at about 11 and ended at around 3. At 3:30 when we were in the reception place at the restaurant of the university, we had information to the effect that some students were injured and were being conveyed to the hospital. So upon further inquiry, we were informed that an explosive device, an improvised explosive device, was thrown on the roof of lecture hall 600 physics, and on reaching the ground, around mid-air, reaching the ground, exploded and released shrapnel, metallic particles. The metallic particles injured about 11 students who were in the vicinity, so they were immediately rushed to hospital. 9 of them are here at the Solidarity Clinic and 2 are in another clinic. So they are undergoing treatment. Treatment was immediate. They are stable, and as of now there are no major injuries. They are still
On to something else. 3 houses have been set ablaze in Bansoa in the Penka Michel subdivision, Menua division, west region of the Republic of Cameroon, amid a violent clash between some bike riders from Bafoussam and those in Bansoa. And those from Bafoussam staged a revenge over alleged killing of 2 of their colleagues by the bikers in Bansoa. Details with Innocent.
A woman in a state of distress and confusion following the razing of her home in Bansoa in the Penka Michel subdivision, Menua division of the West region. A consequence of a clash that generated last Sunday between commercial motorbike riders from Bafoussam and those in Bansoa over killing of 2 Bafoussam bike riders and disappearance of motorbikes of some of their colleagues while at a funeral in Bansoa. She says at 6 p.m. that fateful day, after taking her medication, she fell asleep and only got up to discover people around screaming. It was then she discovered her house burnt to ashes. Similar mishap also located this aged woman.
à 19h30.
That's at about 6:30 p.m. same Sunday, when she was about taking her drugs. Her grandson raised alarm. The house was on fire.
Il crie, il dit grand-mère, grand-mère, la maison brûle.
Residents rushed and put out the flames that was already engulfing the kitchen.
Comme il y a déjà le feu à la cuisine où je sortais.
The third house, this one was almost reduced to ashes. The section of the roof raised has already been renovated. Since then, inhabitants live in fear.
Yeah.
She has been having sleepless nights as threats to return were served.
J'ai passé nuit comme ça sans dormir. Nous ne sentons pas en sécurité.
This youth pleads intervention of authorities.
Complètement le sommeil.
Governor Awafonka Augustine, while on the violence scene, told the population to stay calm, announcing launch of an investigation into the matter for justice to take its course.
A young man arrested with a pregnancy of 8 months old and thrown into the Boya Central Prison. Consul Antoinette has been discharged from the Boya Regional Hospital after she gave birth to a baby girl last weekend, and she was discharged from the Boya Regional Hospital today. And following these latest development, the lawyers have filed another habeas corpus application at the Boya or the Fako High Court after the first one was dismissed, and of course the lawyers are indicating that they have done so because the first habeas corpus application was struck off the court list and not dismissed. That is why they have gone to file for another application demanding for her rights to be respected. And now to sports. The players of the national amputee team are calling on the government to come to their rescue ahead of their participation at the African Nations Cup for amputees in Tanzania. The team is training in very difficult conditions. Manjika and Gabriel has more.
Players of the national amputee team in a training session in Melong, Mongo Division. The team is preparing for the African Nations Cup of Amputee to be hosted by Tanzania later this year. The players who were supposed to be in a training camp in Yaoundé were forced to move down to Melong because of the lack of support from the authorities in the country.
We face too much difficulties. We don't have training materials like boots. Even the crutches that we used to play, they got bad, like broken any minute. So we are pleading for well-wishers, begging for well-wishers, the government to support us. Because even in the tournament is going to start on the 26th. Passport, some of us don't have passport, and it's disturbed us a lot. If we reach here on Monday, it's very difficult for us to even have money to eat. Very difficult. So we are begging for well-wishers, the government to really support us.
At their camp in Melong, these players take care of themselves in the domain of lodging, feeding, and even water to drink.
When you come to training, you don't have enough food to eat, no food to eat, even water to drink is difficult for us. So it disturbs us a lot.
It is not the first time the national amputee team will be involved in a continental assignment.
Our qualifications was in 2019 when we participated in the African Nations Cup in Angola. So we came back, we came fit in Africa, and automatically we were qualified for the African Nations Cup, and that was it. And this time around, it's not been easy for us. It's not been easy how we are going to get the flight ticket this time around. So I really call on the government officials to really see how they can help us.
The African Nations Cup for the amputees will run from November 26 through December 5th, 2021. The three top teams at the end of the tournament will fly the colors of Africa during the World Cup of Amputees next year.
Talking Point is up next. Today we are receiving a youth leader, Donald Ngateng. He is a young Cameroonian who works with a youth-led organization, Cameroon Youth Assembly, CYA, which has as mission building a peaceful and sustainable world via empowering young people with skills they need to better their communities and so better the world. He is one of the 17 members of the Youth Mediators Network charged with heralding youth participation in peace processes around the world, notably in Cameroon. And they were trained notably and commissioned by the UN Youth Peace and Security, UNESCO, British High Commission, Cameroon. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mabila. It's a pleasure being here to share with you and other Cameroonians what I think about youth participation in the peace process.
Youth participation in the peace process, and this is coming, you're coming here at a time when young people have been injured in the University of Boya in an explosion, and that was just earlier today. Now, tell us about what young people should be doing in this context.
UN Security Council resolution, that's 2250, signed on the 15th of December 2015, states that young people must be engaged in the peace process. Peace building is no longer a thing for the old, it's a thing for young people, because the crimes, the violence, and every other thing is tagged with young people. So young people have a duty as far as peace building is concerned.
They have a duty as far as peace building is concerned. Some of them are dying, some of them are being injured, like those in the University of Boya today. Some of them are being displaced. What do you think about this latest twist of the issues in the Northwest and Southwest regions with some of the students, some of the young people that you're talking about, injured today in the University of Boya?
War or violence rewards no one. So war or violence must not be allowed. So young people, like you are saying today in the University of Boya, they were injured. Young people are the highest post suffering. So in times like this, when the Anglophone crisis is concerned, the only thing we can call young people, the only plea we can give to them is to be engaged, positively engaged in peace building. And there are other non-violent ways in which young people can be engaged in peace building.
Now, the question is how to enhance the involvement of young people in the peace process.
Nations have as duty to give young people the protection they need, the direction, and even the means they need to be engaged in the peace process. For example, today, I think in the context, there was a peace building program today in the University of Boya, African Union Peace Building Program, where the Canadian High Commission was involved. I think it's in that arena that we get this explosive. So we are called to protect young people when they engage in peace building activities.
Authorities should protect
young
people.
The United Nations demands that nations should protect young people. They give them safe space that they can use in engaging the peace process.
Because some of the young people listening to you now, especially those in the Northwest and Southwest regions, but also those in other parts of the country, will look at what you're saying as a very difficult thing, because they are already in the midst of the arm and the anvil with if you start talking peace, start asking children to go to school and things like that, you're targeted from the other side by non-state armed groups, and on the other side you are not safe.
That's true. For young Cameroonians presently it's not easy, Mr. Babila, because you want to talk about peace in a situation that is very, very difficult. Like you are saying, once you talk about peace, you are targeted by those who want the peace message. But young people must not relent, because it's a call, it's a universal call. In fact, it's involved in our fabric to be peacemakers as young people. So they must go on engaging and calling for peace, and the state too must protect young people when they are engaged in the peace process.
That's why Barrister Ulel Yonga was saying that peace or security should be stepped up, notably in the town of Boya and across the Anglophone region,
where they've had the 3 explosions of recent,
within a very short space of time.
1 week, like he was talking.
Now, what are the skills that these young people need to be able to be effective, to be efficient in this peace crusade and other things that will improve on their communities?
Talking about skills, I preach peace building, but like we all know, you cannot preach peace building in a hungry stomach. And young people, from the research we carried out, many young people said that they can engage in violent or radicalization if they don't have what to do. That's if they don't have employment. Radicalization becomes a leeway. So talking about skills, we are currently engaged in vocational skills that will help the young people to be involved in what they are doing. And when it comes to peace building, we have non-violent communication. It's practically one of the skills that young people need. How do you communicate in time of conflicts? Because you might say something not intending to be violent, but it can cause a lot of violence. So young people must be trained on non-violent communication. That's one of the aspects.
Non-violent communication. And of course, we also take home the point that young people have to be protected by the state in their efforts.
They must be protected. Peace. Yes.
All right. Thanks so much for coming. You are a youth leader, Donald Ngateng, and of course, you are a peace crusader. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Babila. It's we cannot ask for more, but to help our young people engage in the peace process, and peace is possible.
Peace is possible. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television. Coming up next, live from Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, La Presse dispute, and after that, Serge Alonso will be yours with Equinoxe. Stay with us.